Hi folks, I just thought I'd show you a couple of tips of how to stain and age different types of papers with some things that you might have at home and easy to use. We've got some tea with a tea bag in it, not a lot of water, and I did brew this when the water was hot from the kettle as well. I've let it cool and it brings out more of the tea stain if it starts off hot. I've mixed up some watercolour in a kind of tea colour. You could, if you're really pushed for materials, use mud. So you could get some soil from the garden, put it in some water, try and strain off the bits of soil, and you'd be left with a kind of brown watercolour left after the end of it. So I'm trying to do this on a draining board at home or something plastic. I'm kind of ruining this piece of cardboard here. But I tend to, with the tea bag myself, I happen to have a pair of tongs, but if you don't mind getting your fingers in there, I can't stand tea or coffee myself, but I tend to sort of draw on the tea stain with the tea bag itself, being careful not to break the tea bag. You don't want the tea leaves falling out, but it's quite nice to have sort of darker, more intense areas and allow the paper to dry naturally, so that it can naturally dry in those kind of puddles. So that's me sort of staining some dotted paper that I found. I'm just going to take that and let it dry naturally in its puddles, a bit uneven. I've got some old graph paper, I've got some printer paper and inside of an envelope. So one thing you can do if you've just got plain printer paper to create more of a texture is you could screw up the printer paper like this. And what you're kind of doing is damaging the surface of the paper, so that what you'll find is that when you open it out again, okay, I'm going to kind of leave it a little bit crinkled, okay, like that, and then you put your tea stain on, what you'll find is the tea stain likes to puddle in a kind of texture. So that gives you like sort of an extra dimension to your stained piece of paper. I'm going to just let that puddle in there, some more water in there, and you can see that it is puddling in the troughs, and also it tends to congregate where the paper's been damaged by a fold, and it creates a real nice sort of random effect as well. So I'm going to lift that carefully, let that dry naturally as well. Okay. The other thing you can do, rather than just random screwing it up, is if you wanted to fold it and be a little bit more deliberate about the pattern that you want on your paper, you can do it in a more structured way by folding it in different directions. Folding. Keep folding both ways as well. Okay, so I'm sort of creating more of a linear effect, and so when I open that up and I try to tea stain it, you will find I'll have a bit more of a structured effect and a bit more of a pattern. It looks as though the paper had a pattern on it previously, and you can see that there's a much more grid-like, interesting pattern on that as well. So you can fold and damage the paper surface before you tea stain it as well. Okay. If you don't have tea and coffee, which sometimes happens, I can't stand the stuff and it's only in the house because my husband drinks it, then you can use watercolour. I've mixed up a bit of a puddle here of what looks like a bit like a tea stain and a bit more water to it, and you can use that, randomly sort of flood it with some water, let it bleed out and let it sort of be a bit random as well, and this works with the folded paper just as well as the tea bag would. If you haven't got some tea, I wonder whether some neighbours have got a tea bag you could pinch off them. I know some of you are isolating, it's not that easy. So like I say, you can use tea, or you can use coffee or mud. Sometimes some spices will give you some of these colours. I know turmeric gives quite a yellow colour as well, so you could use some spices, have a look around, food colouring, things like that. Okay, so there might be plenty of stuff in your house you didn't realise you had. Okay, I have collected together, like I say, sort of a random selection. I even found an old adult colouring book, which was all the rage 4 or 5 years ago. And I've torn out some pages from the colouring book and thought, well, that'll make quite a nice effect. So I'm going to go ahead and age all these ready to do some drawings and studies on, and respond to some of the artists that we're looking at. Okay guys, hope that's been helpful. See you soon.